Good evening. Welcome back to another Classic Comics live stream where I'll be looking at some of the headlines over the past week. Kind of a slow week, actually. There haven't been that much, so this is probably going to be a shorter stream, probably because last week was so busy. There was a lot to cover. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and get into it here. So the first story. And this is from Screen Rant. Hold on a moment. Okay. All right. So the first story from Screen Rant: Sony casts its first Spider-Man as Nicolas Cage returns for live-action Spider-Man Noir series. And this is a bit of a surprise. Spider-Verse actor Nicolas Cage is officially set to play Spider-Man Noir in live action in the upcoming Marvel TV show. While Sony's Spider-Man universe has been a hit or miss on the big screen, Sony is getting ready to bring the world of the web crawler, or in this case, web crawlers, to the small screen on Prime Video and MGM Plus. Set to be executive produced by Spider-Verse's Phil Lord and Chris Miller, several live-action Spider-Man TV works are in various stages of development. After previously confirming that he was in talks with Prime Video and MGM Plus for the Spider-Man Noir TV show, a deal has finally been made as the studio reveals that Cage is officially set to headline the Marvel series. The announcement came in light of Amazon's ongoing upfront presentation that is currently happening as Vernon Sanders, head of television at Amazon MGM Studios, and Catherine Pope, the president of Sony Television Studios, gave the following joint statement. Oh, hello, Joe Dog. Hello, sir. Thank you for dropping by this evening. Sick and tired of alternate versions of Spider-Man. Yeah, it's just they've run the character into the ground. And I think this is in part because, particularly in the comics, there's so little that sells now that the few things that do sell, they just, the characters that do sell, they just try and do as many spin-offs and alternate takes as possible. Like, was it the Batman Who Laughs, or whatever, I mean, DC's got 100 Batman titles, and yeah, DC or Marvel has just run Spider-Man into the ground with way too many spin-offs and alternate takes. But I will say that of them, Spider-Man Noir is one of the ones I like a little more. So I guess I can live with it. Okay, so this is from Vernon Sanders. Expanding the Marvel Universe with Noir is a uniquely special opportunity, and we are honored to bring this series to our global Prime Video customers. The extremely talented Nicolas Cage is an ideal choice for our new superhero, an accomplished producing team with Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Amy Pascal, and the incredible team at Sony dedicated to expanding this franchise in the most authentic way. Whatever that means. We are absolutely thrilled to have Nicolas Cage starring in this series. This is Catherine Pope speaking here, by the way. No one else could bring such pathos, pain, and heart to this singular character. Along with our brilliant producers and partners at Amazon MGM Studios and Prime Video, we couldn't ask for a better team to explore this reimagining of such an iconic character in Sony's universe of Marvel characters. Hmm. One of the big changes for the Spider-Man Noir TV show is the proper title of the live-action series, as Prime Video confirmed that it will simply be called Noir. A new Noir series synopsis came with the announcement, as it, quote, tells the story of an aging and down on his luck private investigator in 1930s New York who is forced to grapple with his past life as the city's one and only superhero. As previously reported, this will not focus on Peter Parker, but rather on someone new under the mask, with Cage being Spider-Man in this case. Huh, okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So he's not going to be Peter Parker. With that, it's hard to argue that Nicolas Cage isn't a wonderful, exciting choice for Noir. The first and foremost obvious reason is, of course, he already has experience with the role. Cage voiced Spider-Man Noir in the excellent Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is largely to credit for the character's current popularity. Cage's famous vocal expressiveness works well for the out-of-time wall crawler, and his animated facial expressions and full-body acting can finally come out to shine as his version of the character moves from animation to live action. Nor has previously hired Oren Uziel and Steve Lightfoot to serve as the official showrunners. With a specific episode order for Noir Season 1, or while a specific episode order for Noir Season 1 wasn't given at the time of the story's publication, Prime Video announced that Emmy Award-winning director Harry Bradbeer of the Enola Holmes franchise will helm the first two episodes. Production is likely to start on Noir sometime later this year, with an ideal premiere somewhere in 2025, but that remains to be seen. So, and Joe Dog says, for Nicolas Cage, all right, fine. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. Love the classic costume and black symbiote costume in the Peter years. And Joe Dog also says, I will not be watching a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man because now they want to make Lonnie Lincoln as a classmate, which pisses me off. He's a villain as Tombstone. So wait, so he's a Peter Parker classmate? That's weird. Because I mean, because I thought they had already established in the comics that like he was like hanging out with like uh guys like Nick Cage and some of those characters, related characters when he was young, not with Peter Parker. So I don't know. Doesn't surprise me, but I do think that Cage. I mean, Cage is always entertaining to watch. So I'm sure this will be decent just because he is in it. Now, whether it'll be any good aside from him, who knows? I wouldn't bet money on it, but my guess is that nothing else, he'll make it watchable. Um, Now, it's not clear to me because I do have Amazon Prime. So I guess if it's on Amazon Prime, I may give this a look. But it's not clear to me because I think they said MGM Plus. So I don't know if it'll be on there or not. Okay, let's move along here. And this is from Fandom Pulse. The Marvels hemorrhaged 237 million. Disney's Marvel Studios costliest mistake of the year. So Disney's dismal performance at the box office in 2023 wasn't just a stroke of bad luck. It was a crash course in the consequences of pushing forced political agendas and diversity at the expense of storytelling. The colossal failure of the Marvel series is a glaring example of this misguided approach. Starring Brie Larson, The Marvels was supposed to be another cash cow for Marvel's studios. However, it stumbled out of the gate, becoming the lowest earning film in Marvel's cinematic universe. This failure wasn't merely about box office numbers, it was a reflection of the disconnect between the studio's aspirations for inclusivity and the audience's appetite for authentic storytelling. The exorbitant 455 million spent on production, promotion, and distribution only added insult to injury. In the end, the Marvels hemorrhaged 237 million, making it Disney's costliest misstep of the year. The once reliable franchise of superhero flicks faltered under the weight of forced agendas and a lackluster narrative. But the Marvels wasn't alone in its downfall. Disney's roster of flops in 2023 reads like a laundry list of missed opportunities and misguided priorities. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Wish, and Haunted Mansion all contributed to Disney's ignominious status as the purveyor of box office bombs. The trend wasn't isolated to 2023 either. Disney's woes extended into the previous year, with Strange World adding another 152 million to the company's growing list of losses. Even the powerhouse of animation, Pixar, stumbled with Strange World and Lightyear. The root of Disney's downfall lies in its reliance on established franchises to carry forced political agendas, forced diversity, and a blatant disregard for audience preferences. By prioritizing forced political agendas and diversity over compelling narratives and respect for the source material, Disney alienated its core fan base and failed to attract new audiences. Disney CEO Bob Iger's announcement to scale back MCU content is a tacit acknowledgement of the company's missteps. The decision to release fewer films and focus on quality over quantity could be a step in the right direction if Disney acknowledges that stepping away from diversity, inclusion, and political agendas is the right thing to do. No, they will not do that. I can pretty much guarantee they won't. However, it may be too little too late to salvage Disney's tarnished reputation. The failure of the Marvels underscores the importance of authentic storytelling and the perils of pandering to political correctness. Audiences crave narratives that resonate with them on a visceral level, not thinly veiled attempts at virtue signaling. As the dust settles on Disney's disastrous year at the box office, the industry as a whole must heed the lessons learned. Theatrical releases remain the gold standard for cinematic success, and studios ignore this at their own peril. The era of forced political agendas and diversity should come to an end and must be replaced by a renewed emphasis on storytelling excellence and audience engagement. Well, I pretty much agree with that. The thing is, I mean, even if they were to do that, and abandon the DEI and the wokeness and all that, which they're not going to do, but even if they did, these things don't turn around on a dime. And there's probably at least a couple of years of stuff like this that are still in development, still on the drawing board, that we're probably going to get before they would even start changing the content around. Or maybe they could just start reshooting everything. I mean, they're kind of doing that already, to be honest. I mean, they're reshooting Captain America 4 and pretty much reshooting that Daredevil series. So I don't know, maybe they'll just do that if they don't mind doubling their budgets, essentially. But it wasn't just the Marvels that lost money. And it wasn't just movies that lost money. They lost money on streaming as well. So this comes from Forbes. Willow budget ballooned beyond 150 million before Disney axed the show. What a train wreck this thing was. Disney's reasons for axing the streaming series Willow after just one season appear to be getting clearer, as it has come to light that the budget for its 8 episodes surged to a staggering 156.8 million, giving each episode an average cost of nearly 20 million. Why? Despite the colossal amount spent on the series, Disney has pulled Willow from its Disney Plus platform, and its filings reveal that work on a second series has been abandoned, even though its executive producer, Jonathan Kasdan, has described it as being on pause. Yeah, it's on pause, all right. Sequel to the beloved 1988 Lucasfilm movie with the same name, Willow stars Warwick Davis, who gives a commanding performance as the eponymous hero alongside Aaron Kellerman, Ellie Bamber, and the Grand Budapest Hotel's Tony Revolori. Based on characters created by George Lucas, the series was developed by Kasdan, whose father Lawrence co-wrote The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, The Force Awakens, and Raiders of the Lost Ark for Lucasfilm. Disney acquired the rights to Willow when it bought Lucasfilm from its founder, George Lucas, for $4 billion. 7 years later, Ron Howard, director of the original movie, revealed that he had been approached by Kasdan about working on a sequel series for Disney Plus. And in October 2020, it got the green light. The series debuted just over 2 years later and ran until January 2023. At the time it was commissioned, the pandemic had thrown much of the world into lockdown, leaving consumers craving streaming content. Disney was eagerly adding shows to its platform in a bid to attract more subscribers than its rivals, and no expense was spared. Budgets of streaming shows are usually confidential as studios combine the costs of them in their own overall expenses and don't itemize how much they spend on each one. However, shows made in the United Kingdom are exceptions, and Willow is one of them. Studios film in the UK to benefit from the government's audiovisual expenditure credit. which gives them a cash reimbursement of up to 25.5% of the money they spend. To qualify for the reimbursement, at least 10% of core production costs need to relate to activities in the UK. In order to demonstrate this to the government, studios tend to set up a separate production company in the UK for each show they make. They are responsible for everything from pre-production and principal photography to post-production delivery of the finished show and payment of goods and services in relation to it. These companies have to file publicly available financial statements, and this lifts the curtain on precisely how much it costs to make the show. The filings show everything from the headcount and salaries to the total cost and the level of cash reimbursement. The companies usually have code names so they don't raise attention with fans when filing for permits to film on location. The Disney subsidiary behind Willow is called Barking Lion Productions, in a nod to the mythical creatures that populate the show. As with all UK companies, the financial statements are released in stages long after the period they relate to. This explains why Barking Lion Productions only recently filed its results for the year to December 31st, 2022, which is a month after the show was released. The financial statements cover the period after filming finished, so they show the cost for post-production, which was led by the London office of Lucasfilm's Industrial Light and Magic. The filings reveal that $53 million was spent on Willow in 2022, bringing its total cost to $156.8 million. This is described as being, quote, in line with the adjusted production budget, unquote. And Disney didn't even have to cover it all itself thanks to an unlikely Prince Charming. Willow received a $31.1 million reimbursement from the AVEC, that's the credit, and a further $5 million grant from filming in a country within the UK, in Wales, which offers additional fiscal incentives to studios. It brought Disney's net spending on the show down to $120.7 million, but this couldn't stop it from getting axed. Although Willow got an 84% critic score on review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the audience only gave it a 65%. Its audience was reportedly amongst the lowest for a Disney Plus show, with industry analyst Samba TV reporting that only 481 households watched the show in the first 5 days of its release, despite 2 episodes being available. At the other end of the spectrum, the debut episode of hit Marvel streaming show Loki attracted 2.5 million households over the same time frame, according to Samba TV. It cast a dark spell on Willow's future, and in March 2023, it was reported that the series would not be renewed for a second season. Just days later, Jonathan Kasdan described Willow's status as more of a pause than cancellation. Yeah, hold on to that dream, buddy. He noted that the second season has been written and will hopefully eventually be made, but not for at least the next 12 months, leading to the decision to release the cast. However, the financial statements do not share this optimism and say that, quote, in March 2023, season 2 of the company's production was abandoned, unquote. Since then, yet more clouds have gathered over the show, as it was one of nearly 50 titles slashed from Disney Plus at the end of May last year as part of a broader cost-cutting initiative. Other cuts included The Mysterious Benedict Society and the feature film The One and Only Ivan. Never heard of that. Oh, is this it? This thing with this gorilla? Okay. Pulling the show enables Disney to take an impairment charge on them as it spent money on productions that it deemed not to be viable. It is essentially a reduction in the value of an asset, and this creates a loss on the company's balance sheet, which reduces their tax bill. Disney has reported that its content purge has generated a $1.5 billion impairment charge, which is precisely the happy ending it was looking for. Wow, that's a lot. Disney isn't the only studio which has taken this approach. Warner Brothers Discovery pioneered it by pulling dozens of titles from its HBO Max streaming platform to get tax write-offs or to loan them out to free ad-supported TV services. Many of its rivals follow suit, including Paramount Global, which cuts titles to downsize its Showtime platform. Studios realize that some titles are more valuable earning ad dollars on fast platforms than they are sitting in a streaming video on demand library. I would argue that most of them probably are more valuable that way, but whatever. They're going to do what they're going to do. The development of Willow began under the watch of Disney's chief executive Bob Iger before he retired in 2020. However, since he returned to Disney's helm in November 2022, he has come full circle by pulling the show. As he explained to analysts earlier this week, we are already doing some licensing with Netflix and we're looking selectively at other possibilities. I don't want to declare that it's a direction we'll go more aggressively or not, but we certainly are taking a look at it and being expansive in our thinking about it. We had previously thought that exclusivity, meaning our own product on our own platforms, had huge value. Yeah. Well, all of Hollywood thought that. Pretty much every studio in Hollywood thought that. We'll take all our stuff and put it on our own streaming platform and we'll clean up. Hasn't worked out that way, though, has it? It definitely does have some value, but as you know, we're also watching as some studios have licensed content to third-party streamers, and that creates more traction, more awareness, and in effect, it increases not only the value of the content from a financial perspective, but just in terms of traction. So we're looking at it with an open mind, but I don't think you should expect that we'll do a significant amount of it. Disney has been on a cost-cutting drive since Iger returned. 3 months after he came back, he told investors that the studio needs to, quote, reduce costs on everything that we make because while we're extremely proud of what's on screen, it's gotten to a point where it's extraordinarily expensive, unquote. Willow is testimony to that, and it was born in the days of lavish spending in a bid to attract subscribers. That expense might be justifiable if the end result fuels a surge in fan interest, but not if it flounders like Willow. Lukewarm reception isn't the only hurdle it faced. In November last year, Disney was sued in the London High Court by English actor Ralph Ineson. And I think that's the guy. I think that's the guy I was just last week on my stream. I was talking about him. He's the guy that's been cast as Galactus, I believe. Ralph Ineson or Ineson over claims that he suffered permanent shoulder damage in a night shoot on the whale set of Willow. Innocent was dressed in armor and battling a 9-foot tall ogre called the Scourge when he fell awkwardly and dislocated his shoulder. He is reportedly claiming up to 187,400 of damages, though it doesn't appear to have put him on Disney's blacklist, as it's understood he was recently cast. Yeah, here they say it. Recently cast as the villain in the upcoming superhero movie, The Fantastic Four. Yeah, so it is him. Innocent isn't the only one who has voiced his displeasure at Disney over Willow. In October last year, Davis took to social media to call the series removal embarrassing. He posted on X that he, quote, meets lovely people on a daily basis who are fans of Willow and who are the reason the Disney Plus series was made. Addressing his message to Disney, he said, what do I say to these subscribers when they ask why they can't watch the series anymore? Ironically, Willow was canned despite featuring a romance between two female characters, which gave it appeal to the LGBTQ community, one of Disney's key demographic target groups. Indeed, Willow's diversity wasn't just skin deep. The filings showed that during production, women occupied 56.2% of the highest paid jobs on Willow and 65.6% of the lowest paid jobs, compared to 30 and 48% respectively on Disney's live-action Snow White movie, despite it being hailed as an equality showcase. Likewise, as we reported, just 34% of the Snow White staff were female compared to 57.5% of the 588 employees who worked on Willow. Ultimately, Disney answers to its stockholders, and earlier this week it announced that it cut costs. Wait, what? And earlier this week announced that its cost cuts have finally made a magic touch. After burning up more than 11 billion of losses since it launched in 2019, the entertainment arm of Disney Plus finally made an operating profit in the 3 months to March 30th of this year. However, when combined with its sports streaming division, it made an 11 billion, or excuse me, made an 18 million loss, so a happy ending is still far, far away. Yeah, not surprised that that thing failed. And Joe Dog says NetTease is going to doing a beta test for Marvel Rivals. It looks trash. And they also ruined my favorite anti-hero, Namor. Yeah, I don't know what that Marvel Rivals thing is. I saw like an ad for it, but I don't really know much about it. Is it a game? I guess it's like a fighting game, probably. Like, I don't know, like Mortal Kombat or something. That would be my guess. Okay, now speaking of Disney Plus, got another Disney Plus related story here. And this is from InsideTheMagic.net. Disney Plus gives up on struggling MCU, revives abandoned Marvel canon. Disney Plus, let me get rid of some of these ads. Okay. Disney Plus has been failing to keep the struggling Marvel Cinematic Universe afloat with streaming TV series and specials, so it's giving up. Instead, it is time to revive a previously canonical Marvel label to see if it sticks this time. With Disney when Disney Plus launched in 2019, the MCU had been part of its a huge part of its appeal. For a long time, it was the only streaming service where one could watch colossal Marvel events like Captain America Civil War and Avengers Endgame, and critically acclaimed series like WandaVision and Ms. Marvel. That alone justified the then $6.99 monthly subscription price. However, in the years since, the price of Disney Plus has skyrocketed. The company has pushed ads from every possible direction. Original content has regularly been culled in the name of tax breaks and reducing residuals to creatives. And now you might have to get Max along with your MCU and Star Wars content if you want a decent price. Yeah, and I'll talk about that in just a minute here. Or, well, actually, no, I think I talked about that last week. How Disney Plus and I think it's Hulu and Max, the Warner Brothers streamer, they're all going to be bundled together. At the same time, Marvel Studios has run into the wall of superhero fatigue and faces vastly diminished box office grosses while production budgets skyrocket. While Disney CEO Bob Iger may dismiss the idea that audiences are oversaturated with Marvel content, the proof is out there in the form of the dismal box office performance of the Marvels and the critical derision given to the Disney Plus series Secret Invasion. In order to save the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Disney has decided to cut back on theatrical releases and cancel numerous projects from behind the scenes. The upcoming Ryan Reynolds Hugh Jackman film Deadpool and Wolverine will be the only theatrical release in 2024. Kevin Feige apparently hopes that intense pressure and 20th Century Fox X-Men nostalgia will translate to box office diamonds. In 2026, the Fantastic Four and Captain America Brave New World are scheduled to try and keep the brand vital and alive. But in the meantime, Disney Plus is trying something new and reviving an old canonical Marvel brand to reframe its own TV offerings. At the recent Disney Upfront event, it was announced that there was finally an actual name and a release date for one of the longest teased Disney Plus shows. Agatha, After All, which is like, what is this, like the fourth or fifth title for this show? Which will premiere on the streaming service on September 18th. Yeah, I mean, the show nobody asked for. I mean, who wanted an Agatha Harkness streaming show? Honestly, did anyone? And Joe Dog says it's an Overwatch. Okay, Overwatch game. Gotcha. And Disney minus. Yeah, Disney minus indeed. Minus money. Disney minus profits. Okay, but what was more significant than the announcement of the WandaVision spinoff starring Catherine Hahn was that the series is being released under the imprint of Marvel Television, the defunct production company responsible for shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Um, I love how they're naming like the popular shows. They don't mention Inhumans. Marvel Entertainment created Marvel Television in 2010, just after its purchase by the Walt Disney Company, and its relationship to Marvel Studios and the greater Marvel MCU canon was always rocky at best. While Kevin Feige had iron control over the MCU feature films and their continuity, Jeff Loeb was in charge of the television division, and reportedly the two execs rarely saw eye to eye. That meant that over the years, the MCU was increasingly flanked by a series of vaguely related canons. Aside from the Netflix series, which came to include Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and The Defenders, Marvel Television produced shows like the FX X-Men adjacent Legion, the supernatural series Hellstrom, and the legendarily disappointing Inhumans. In 2019, Kevin Feige was finally given full sway over Disney's MCU holdings, meaning Jeff Loeb was out, and Marvel Television was absorbed into the larger studio. Effectively, it was shut down in favor of a more unified MCU production company. But Daredevil has now, I'm sorry, but Disney, but Disney has now decided to revive the brand with Agatha After All, Ironheart, and Daredevil Born Again, all under the title. What this means for the former canon of shows like Cloak and Dagger is still unknown, but with the Netflix series being increasingly incorporated into the MCU, it's a promising sign. Apparently, another of Disney's strategies to revitalize the MCU is to divide it into three parts. Marvel Studios will handle theatrical films, Marvel Television will do all live action series, and animation is what it sounds like. At this point, it is clear that the MCU is being majorly overhauled behind the curtain, but we'll just have to wait and see what that means for the future. And another story I did, I think it was like 2 weeks ago or two streams ago, was that Marvel was planning to do more animated stuff. Probably because it's cheaper. Like this like the X-Men show, and I think I talked about this last week that there seems to be some dispute over whether X-Men is a hit or whether it's successful or not, because apparently the streaming numbers aren't all that great. But it's an animated show, and so I think you could probably make an argument that it's fairly cheap compared to most MCU, streaming shows, and therefore it can get fewer views and probably still be, from a financial standpoint, still be worthwhile for Disney to make. Okay, and now in speaking of Ralph Innocent being in Fantastic Four, there's been another Fantastic Four related casting. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Natasha Lyonne joins Marvel movie. So Natasha Lyonne is the latest star to join the Fantastic Four. The act the actress is set to board the cast of the forthcoming Marvel Studios movie in an undisclosed role, the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Matt Shakman is directing the high-profile Disney project that is aiming to begin filming midsummer in England, ahead of its planned release date of July 25th, 2025. And I would argue that they're really missing a trick to not put it out on July 4th, but that's just me. The Fantastic Four will star Pedro Pascal as scientist Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss Bachrach as Ben Grimm. The cast also includes Julia Garner as a female Silver Surfer, in addition to unannounced roles for Paul Walter Hauser and John Malkovich. Additionally, THR broke the news last week that British actor Ralph Ineson, known for his role in the Harry Potter films, is set to play the Fantastic Four's primary antagonist, Galactus. The Fantastic Four is based on the long running Marvel comic series and will take place in the 60s when the superhero team first began. Shackman, who helmed Marvel's Disney Plus series WandaVision, is directing from a script by Eric Pearson, Joseph Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. WandaVision's Peter Cameron has also worked on the screenplay. Leone's recent credits include starring in the streaming series Poker Face and Russian Doll, and she is set to appear in Taika Waititi's forthcoming feature Clara and the Sun opposite Jenna Ortega and Amy Adams. So, of course, the question is, who is she going to be playing? And, I think I speculated last week on Malkovich that there's a good chance I think Malkovich is maybe going to play the Puppet Master. Although I doubt he'll be the villain in the first film. He'd probably be like in a follow up or something. And so my guess offhand would be that Natasha Lyonne is probably going to play Alicia Masters, the daughter of the puppet master, and of course, Ben Grimm's love interest. It just makes the most sense. Joe Dog says, I've watched a couple episodes of X Men 97. It is pretty good. I mean, that seems to be the general consensus. Most people, I haven't watched it myself. I don't have Disney Plus. But most of the people I've seen talking about it on YouTube, they seem to think it's pretty good. So I don't know. I think it's probably, I don't know how great of a success is, but it's clearly successful enough because they're planning to do more seasons. So I guess it's doing well enough for them. But yeah, so Natasha Lyonne, I'm guessing probably as Alicia Masters. And like I say, it makes sense. Actually, what surprises me about the casting is um, how do I put this? How kind of not diverse the casting is, how not Rainbow Coalition the cast is, because I mean it's really, aside from them casting a female Silver Surfer, aside from that, this is pretty straightforward cast. Well, Pedro Pascal too, I guess. Um, but aside from that, it's a pretty straightforward casting for this movie. A bit surprising, and she seems like a good choice for this role. She's a good actress, and I'm sure she'll be fine. Assuming she's Alicia. I mean, if she's not Alicia, I don't know who she would be. Although the way Disney works, I wouldn't be surprised if she wound up playing Doctor Doom. I did see a story, um, I guess a rumor that, well, I've seen a couple of rumors. I think I did one last week, but I've seen a number of rumors about Doctor Doom. That there was one that Ben Affleck was in the running to play Doctor Doom. And I also saw one that Liam Neeson is like in talks to play Doctor Doom. Now, him playing Doctor Doom would be pretty cool. But I didn't run with it because there just wasn't much. It was just that like there's a rumor going around that he's playing Doctor Doom, and it just wasn't much to it. So I didn't really think there was much to say, except might be true, might not be true. Okay. All right. So let's stick with Disney Plus here or Marvel. Got one more related story. Where am I at? 7:38. Okay. Yeah, this is probably going to go what 45, 50 minutes, something like that. All right, this is from the Direct. New Daredevil Born Again trailer footage includes Spider-Man No Way Home callback. The privately released Daredevil Born Again trailer footage included a thrilling callback to one of the MCU's most memorable moments from 2021's Spider-Man No Way Home. And apparently they showed this trailer footage was shown at what, that upfront event, some media event or something like that. It hasn't been shown to the general public yet. I wonder if there's anything leaked online though. Let me see. Let me check YouTube here and see if there's anything. Mm, eh, Nah, I don't see any actual footage. Or wait, is that? Yeah, I don't see any actual footage for the trailer. I do see some doing breakdowns of it, but that's what I'm going to do here anyway. So, okay. 2021 saw Charlie Cox make his return to the MCU as Matt Murdock slash Daredevil, with Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige confirming he would be the man to embody the role for this franchise. After his years of work in Netflix's Defender saga, he was officially confirmed to be canon, which was officially confirmed to be canon with the MCU, along with roles in She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, and Echo. Fans eagerly await new updates on how his solo series will tie into the greater MCU as well. Come on, cooperate with me here. There we go. During Disney's 2024 upfront event, Marvel Studios showed the first teaser trailer from Daredevil Born Again, which included a callback to Spider-Man No Way Home. Excuse me just a moment here. Sorry, I needed to sneeze. And Joe Dog says should be called Marvel Knights for the TV series. Yeah, um, I think that would be a good idea. They could kind of fold those shows along with like Moon Knight. That would be another good one, and maybe there are always rumors about Ghost Rider swirling around. You could maybe include him as well. That would be a good idea, I think. All right. As detailed by IGN and The Wrap, Matt Murdock was shown donning his classic red Daredevil suit and narrating a line teasing that, quote, the entire system is against you, and saying it's often David versus Goliath. It includes glimpses of Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin while teasing the return of both Deborah Ann Wool's Karen Page and Eldon Henson's Foggy Nelson. The latter two were brought back to the show as part of major changes to the story, which also included a comeback for Wilson Bethel's Bullseye. Murdoch is asked what kind of a lawyer he is by an undisclosed character at the end of the trailer, to which he replies, quote, a really good one, while putting on a broken pair of his iconic red glasses. Fans will recognize this as a similar line to the one in his scene from Spider-Man No Way Home, when he offered the same response to Peter Parker, asking how he caught a brick hurled through his apartment window. Additionally, the footage was described as much more violent than initially anticipated, almost confirming it will have the same TVMA rating Echo had for its arrival on Disney Plus. Those expecting Spider-Man to appear in Daredevil Born Again will likely be disappointed, as the web slinger will almost certainly not be back in the MCU until his upcoming solo film, Spider-Man 4. However, there is the chance that other MCU heroes could find their way into the Daredevil universe, especially with promotional material finally teasing his place in the greater story. On top of Karen Page and Foggy Nelson, John Bernthal's Punisher is also confirmed for a place in Born Again, taking on a role nearly as big as Charlie Cox's in this series. And while D'Onofrio hopes for his own Spider-Man interaction someday, the wait will have to continue for more red-suited hero interactions following Spider-Man No Way Home's first efforts. So it doesn't reveal a whole lot. But as the article does mention, they've pretty much completely, I don't know about completely, but heavily reshot this thing and changed the story. Although I believe I did a story on here, I don't know, probably been a month or so ago, that basically what they're doing is they're just going to bring like Foggy and Karen. They're basically just going to revive the old Netflix show just for like the first few episodes, like maybe the first 3 episodes or something like that. And then one of those characters, I'm guessing Foggy probably, is going to get killed. And then there's going to be a time jump of a few years. and then from there, it's just going to be like a Disney Plus. It's going to be a new show basically. Hopefully that won't be the case, but it wouldn't surprise me if it were. Okay, now streaming shows. Here's another one about a streaming show. Let me bring this up. This is from Variety.com. Silk Spider Society live action series no longer moving forward at Amazon. The Silk Spider Society live action series has been scrapped at Amazon. The show was originally greenlit in November of 2022 in a deal with Sony Pictures Television to develop a suite of shows based on Marvel characters that Sony controls. It was meant to debut on the MGM Plus linear channel domestically before a global launch on Prime Video. Walking Dead alum Angela Kang was on board as executive producer and showrunner, with Kong also signing a multi-year overall deal with Amazon MGM Studios in the process. Kong will continue under that deal. Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Amy Pascal were also executive producers on the series. According to an individual with knowledge of the situation, Sony will try to shop the series to other buyers. Well, I'll give my opinion here when I'm done with it. It had been reported earlier in the year by The Ankler that Amazon had shut down the writer's room for Silk, with the writing staff released to pursue other work, though Kong remained attached to the project as showrunner. The Ankler reported at that time that Amazon wanted to refocus the show with a more male skewing audience in mind, which would make sense given the company's success with shows like The Boys, the recent spinoff Gen V, Fallout, Reacher, and Jack Ryan. The official log line released at the time of the series order stated that the show would follow Cindy Moon, described as, quote, a Korean American woman bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker as she escapes imprisonment and searches for her missing family on her way to becoming the superhero known as Silk. And hey, Joe Dog, speaking of like spin-off Spider-Man characters, this one is a perfect example right here. A character that nobody really asked for or wanted. The Silk series news comes days after Amazon announced it has ordered a Spider-Man Noir live-action series starring Nicolas Cage, with Lord Miller and Pascal also executive producing. Sony currently controls over 900 Marvel characters associated with the Spider-Man franchise. No other shows under the partnership have been announced at this time. Sony is prepping theatrical releases for a third Venom film, as well as Kraven the Hunter, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson, the former of which is slated to debut in October, while the latter will bow in December. And Kraven the Hunter, I mean, that's another one. But what I'm guessing happened here is, because they announced the change in the writer's room, and that they wanted to take it in a more male-oriented direction, I believe in December. And it was right on the heels of the Marvels, and particularly of Madam Web, both failing. Or was Madam Web, actually, I guess Madam Web was like in February, wasn't it? Or January? Yeah, I think that was earlier this year, not in December. And I mean, I think it's a pretty safe bet that this was caused by the failure of those female-driven franchises. And they looked at this and said, these female superhero shows aren't successful. They're not making money. And at least some in Hollywood are finally beginning to wake up to reality and understand that they can't just take any random male dominated IP, male driven IP, and basically change the character from male to female and then throw it out and they're going to print money. And yeah, I mean, it's taken a while, but it seems like, at least for some in Hollywood, the reality is sinking in. And this is an example of that. And I mean, yeah, it's like, who wanted Silk? Who wanted a Silk show? Nobody. Pascal in it. Yeah, Amy Pascal. And she was behind Madam Web. You know, she was, I think, really the one who got that Madam Web thing up and running. Although she wasn't, I think towards the end she wasn't involved because her role changed or something like that. But yeah, I mean, how many times are they going to do this and fail? And it seems like, at least again, as this show or this article evidences, at least some in Hollywood are beginning to be like, hey, maybe we ought to appeal to male viewers because they will actually watch our shows, you know, if we appeal to them. Okay, where I'm at 750. Okay, so I got two more, and they're more kind of business oriented. Let me bring that down. Okay, but this won't take long. And this is also from Variety. Now, again, I think last week I did that story about how Disney Plus and Hulu and Max are all going to be bundled together into one big service, basically, where you can get that all those libraries combined, obviously in an attempt to try and make money because these streamers are all, you know, not profitable. Well, apparently they're not the only ones getting into that game. So from variety.com, Comcast to launch Peacock, Netflix, and Apple TV bundle, quote, at a vastly reduced price. Get ready for the next cable-like streaming bundle. Comcast later this year will launch a three-way bundle with Peacock, Netflix, and Apple TV Plus offered at a deep discount, Comcast chief Brian Roberts said. Dubbed Stream Saver, the bundle will be available to all Comcast broadband and TV customers, Roberts said, speaking Tuesday at MoffettNathanson's 2024 Media, Internet, and Communications Conference in New York. The three streaming services, Peacock, Netflix, and Apple TV Plus, will come at a vastly reduced price to anything in the market today, Roberts said, although he didn't reveal any pricing details. And that's an everyday pricing, not an introductory pricing. The goal is to, quote, add value to consumers. Yeah, sure. And at the same time, quote, take some of the dollars out of other companies' streaming businesses, Roberts added, while reinforcing Comcast's broadband service offerings. We've been bundling video successfully and creatively for 60 years, and so this is the latest iteration of that, Roberts said. I think this will be a pretty compelling package. The cheapest way to get all three streamers separately today is with the ad-supported Peacock Premium at $5.99 a month, although it's going up to $7.99 a month in July. Netflix Basic with ads, which costs $6.99 a month, and the standard Apple TV Plus plan at $9.99 a month. So that's basically what, 10, 17, 23. So 23 bucks. Although in July, when it goes up to a 7.99, or Peacock goes up to 70.99, that'll be 25 bucks a month for those. Note that to get Comcast StreamSaver discount, you will need to already subscribe to Xfinity Internet and or Xfinity TV. Okay, so you'll already be having to pay for that before you can even get this bundle. And I don't know how much that is offhand. Comcast's impending launch of the StreamSaver bundle comes as other media companies have been assembling similar offerings. Last week, Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery announced a three-way bundle comprising Max, Disney Plus, and Hulu to be available starting this summer, with pricing to be announced. In addition, Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Fox Corporation have formed a joint venture to launch a streaming sports bundle stocked with ESPN Plus and linear TV networks. Thing jumped around on me. And linear TV networks from each slated to debut this fall. Critics have alleged the venture, which some have dubbed Spoolu, a mashup of sports and Hulu, is anti-competitive and violates antitrust law. Like the other streaming bundle strategies, Comcast's forthcoming Peacock, Netflix, and Apple TV Plus package is an effort to reduce cancellation rates, aka churn, and provide a more efficient means of subscriber acquisition, coming as the traditional cable TV businesses continue to deteriorate. Comcast Stream Saver bundle will hit the market ahead of another price hike for the standalone Peacock service, which goes into effect for new customers prior to the 2024 Paris Summer Olympic Games. Beginning in mid-July, the price for Peacock Premium will increase by 2 to $7.99 per month. And Peacock Premium Plus, which is mostly ad-free, is going up by $2 to $13.99 per month. The new prices will be effective starting July 18th for new Peacock customers and for existing subscribers with their next billing date on or after August 17th. And I got to say, this is part of the reason why I was never too enamored with streaming services from the beginning. Oh, hey, Adega. Thanks for showing up, sir. Thank you. No problem. Better late than never. And Joe Dog says, up next, NFL minus. Yeah, I don't even watch the NFL anymore. I kind of, back during the whole BLM protests and all that stuff, it just really turned me off to the whole thing, and I just stopped watching. But yeah, so I never really went in big on the streaming services because back when they were offering these things, they were offering it as basically for almost nothing, right? Very little, and there were no ads. And I knew that wasn't going to last. I knew eventually they're going to get all these people signed up, get them kind of hooked on it, then they're going to start jacking up the prices, and they'll probably bring ads in too. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I do have, as I said, Amazon Prime, but I got that free because I was basically I got it through a university account because I'm in a postgraduate work and I got it free through postgrad. Although it's not, to be fair, it's not free anymore, and I do going back forth because I don't watch it much. In fact, I watch it hardly ever. I probably ought to just cancel it. So yeah, I guess this is the next stage in the streaming wars is these companies are bundling their services together basically in a bid to survive and try and make money because it ain't working. It ain't working. Okay. And speaking of things being put together in order to save money, got one more here. This will be the last thing, and then I'll be going because we're almost at an hour here. Sony Apollo backs away from $26 billion Paramount bid, but pays way to continue deal talks and NDAs. Sony and Apollo have apparently decided to back away from their previous all-cash $26 billion offer to buy Paramount Global, in part due to concerns from Sony shareholders about costs related to Paramount's streaming assets, the New York Times reported Friday. But according to New York Times, Sony and Apollo are still serious about acquiring Paramount assets and are exploring other possible deal structures. As part of this, the companies have signed a non disclosure agreement with Paramount that allows them to examine financial information that hasn't been made public. So they're looking at the books, or at least at least the version of the books that Paramount's going to let them see anyway. Formal talks with Sony were approved by a special committee of Paramount's board of directors on May 5th after the company's exclusive negotiation window with Skydance Media expired without a deal. But the committee also signaled interest in further negotiations with Skydance, even though the end of the exclusivity window makes a deal less likely. Skydance talks centered on a potential two-step deal in which it would acquire Paramount through Sherry Redstone's majority stake in National Amusements, which owns 77% of Paramount's voting stock. Redstone reportedly wants this deal, but it has received a loud pushback from minority Paramount shareholders who oppose Skydance's reported plans to keep all Paramount assets together instead of selling them piecemeal, similar to companies that have been bought up and stripped by private equity firms. The latter process would generate bigger short term gains for shareholders, though it would also result in a greatly diminished Paramount. So there, let me read that again. So, a loud pushback from minority shareholders who oppose reported plans to keep the assets together. So, these people are opposed to keeping these assets. They want them sold off, which I don't know. That seems short sighted to me. It's like the article says that may pay off in the short term, but in the long term, I mean, what is Paramount without their IPs? And it's not like they have the best list of IPs anyway. Let's be honest. I mean, besides Star Trek and I don't know, I guess you might say Mission Impossible, but I mean, this next Mission Impossible movie that's coming out with Tom Cruise is the last one, supposedly. So it's kind of a franchise that's kind of coming to an end, although I'm sure they'll try and revive it with a streaming show. But without Tom, I mean, Tom Cruise is the main draw there, I think, not really so much the IP of Mission Impossible itself. And in any case, the last Mission Impossible movie kind of flopped anyway. So yeah, I mean, aside from Star Trek, they don't have much. Okay, Redstone has been very public about her preference that Paramount not be broken up and has previously rejected Sony and Apollo bids on these grounds. According to the New York Times, she has privately signaled breaking up the company isn't a deal breaker anymore, but it would depend on what the terms are. In other words, she's getting desperate. She's like, I want to load this crap. Any Sony Apollo deal may face additional regulatory challenges, however. It would need to get around federal laws restricting the ownership of broadcast television networks by foreign companies. The Biden administration has also favored stronger antitrust and labor law enforcement than recent presidential predecessors. And I'm certainly no fan of that administration, but I do agree with that position, at least. I think I talked about that last week, that I think part of the reason these studios have been acting such a fool over the past several years is because they just figure, well, if we put these things out and they keep failing and we go bankrupt, we'll just sell to some bigger entity, to one of these big tech companies like Amazon or Apple or whatever, or Netflix. And then they'll just take on our debts and we'll get a nice windfall and walk away rich. So I would kind of like it if the government would actually step in and start preventing these mergers from taking place. I think it would force these studios to deal in reality a little bit more. Okay. All right. So it's at 8. So I'll go ahead and stop there. Please do like this stream if you've been watching, and also sub to the channel if you haven't, and check out some of my other videos if you would. And thank you to those who have watched during the stream and those who will check it out on the rewatch. I will stream again Tuesday night. I'll be doing my Trek Talk Tuesday evening. I believe that's going to be Dagger of the Mind. I think that's the episode I'll be covering. So until then, have a good evening, everyone. And yeah, good evening, Joe Dog. Thank you for stopping by. And you as well, Adega. Thank you, sir. And have a good week.